Each Sunday night, I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your host, Keith Barney.
Out of practice.
And PC Mike and Deglio.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
The Out of Practice podcast, now with matching glasses.
I went from Mac to PC, and I'm feeling okay about it.
And welcome to the Out of Practice podcast, a weekly podcast detailing David E. Kelley's award-winning series, The Practice. This week we are discussing Season 4, Episode 21, entitled Honorable Man. This is Out of Practice, episode number 82. How's it going, Degs?
So, if you enjoy Mike and Keith talking at each other, get ready for it, because this is our weekly catch-up. We've barely spoken. Everybody take a shot. The hair curtains have been addressed already. Top of the show.
There was a problem already? Oh, jeez.
So
We're just getting started.
I finally got my graphics card thing fixed on the PC, on the ongoing adventures of Mike and his computer.
So you didn't have to order a new one, or did you?
I did, but they were all sold out, so I decided, though I've pumped a lot of overpowered components into this computer, I realized that, a middle of the range graphics card for me is going to be just fine, because I'm not 4K gaming at the Expo Fortnite Championship or whatever the kids say.
What was that? 4K gaming at the Expo Fortnite Championship.
Yes. So anyway, all's going well. So I decided the other day I was going to, let me see what this button does. Let me overclock. Oh, overclock? Yeah, let's try that. And then I broke everything. So I was up at 4 o'clock fixing everything. And I've now been like, you know what? I'm just going to run everything stock. There's no reason to F
you
with
don't
anything.
need to overclock a fucking space shuttle. It's already NASA.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
You're right. So anyway, everything's good. I figured out how to do our a version of our Tesla launch through the PC.
Right.
I was telling Keith before. So when we would be recording the episode before, my MacBook's CPU usage was up at about 60%. And right now we've got the exact same setup going, and my PC is running at 1.5%.
Yeah, I don't have a button for nerd brag, but I think I might need one.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I haven't tinkered with is the sort of rendering settings. So I don't know what's being recorded right now. But you know what? If this episode doesn't, it's going to be just fine. Everything's going to be just fine.
Look, I am absolutely certain it's going to turn out.
Yeah. See, I can
just
actually
fine.
see your beard moving. So before you would have actually freaked me out. Today was supposed to be a day I was going to take a couple days off from work, from both works, because we're going to start packing this week. However,
but are you not moving till October?
Yeah, but we had a couple movers over, and I realized that I have to really pack, because if we don't really cut down the amount of time those guys spend in my house, it's going to cost so much of the money. So
yeah, fair enough.
Because we decided that, you know what? I'm 40 years old, trying to do all that shit myself. It's worth the $2,000. It's not worth it, but it's the situation we're in.
No, it's entirely crazy, and we did the same thing. Although we're not packing for the movers per se. We packed about a month ago just because we're so anxious to get out of this apartment that we just psychologically needed to take some concrete steps to getting out, even though we are months away from actually moving. So our house is filled with boxes just cuz.
Yeah.
But we have to deal with the movers this week, and this is like causing me such consternation because I was raised in Vermont, sort of on a farm. We wood heated our house, and so like moving heavy things is what I've done since like I was in utero. But this time I have a little hernia, and I can't really do what I would normally want to do until I get that fixed, and I'm not going to get that fixed anytime soon. So I'm realizing not only do we have to hire movers, but I can't really help that much, which is I'm going to need to be like medicated to be able to like watch people moving my shit without like jumping in like an idiot.
Yeah, I've had a hernia, a very similar situation for years now. And I didn't even factor that into the needing help. It's more when I thought about the idea of having literally everything I own, including some expensive things, not a lot. We don't have a lot of stuff, but I have some instruments and
Right.
equipment and a couple of antique hutches that my wife inherited from her father. And the idea of sticking that all into a truck and then me driving it over the George Washington Bridge, I don't want that on me. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's not that it's safer with some stranger doing it, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to take all of our fancy stuff in our car.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
ourselves.
I can, I just have a little car, and I have 2 animals I have to like also transport. So
right, of course. Well, we were saying yesterday as we got stuck on the GW, with like we lost like a half an hour of our lives on the George Washington Bridge because there was an accident. But by the time we got to the accident, we realized it wasn't even on our side of the bridge. We lost a half hour of our lives because of Gaper Block. And
oh man, if I could have any of the time back I've lost on the George Washington Bridge, any of it.
I am so ready to not have to cross the city constantly. Every time we go to Philly for Jillian's parents or Vermont for my parents or anything, just having to, go up the RFK and then the GW, like I'm so ready not to cross the city every time I do something.
Me too. Oh man, it's going to be nice. Can't wait till I'm in my retirement community, all snug.
I'm so ready. I am absolutely ready to be in a retirement community. Sign me up. I'll play some shuffleboard. Ready to go. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move on into our show and do one of everyone's favorite segments, the loudest of all segments, entitled...
That is loud.
It's really aggressive, but at least it's not more TV. Oh, and one more thing.
Boy.
All right. So I'll start because this last week, of course, I have been... Oh, hair curtains. Here we go.
Take a drink.
I have been watching the conventions. I watched all of the Democratic and all of the Republican conventions. And I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, which I will spare you all of. But it was a really I've watched the political conventions, I think, since '92. I definitely saw some of the '88 convention, but I was a little too young to watch it. But I definitely remember '92, like, read my lips, no new taxes. I like literally saw that when I was 12. So I'm a political convention junkie, and I thought I thought certainly this new format they did, especially the Democratic side, did really well with it. Really focusing on intimacy, focusing on more personal stories and less sort of stagecraft. And I thought it was very effective. I will admit, I miss the balloons. I know it's wasteful. I know it's entirely pointless, and it's just pageantry for pageantry's sake. But I do enjoy a confetti and balloon drop. I just I hate to say it, I just do.
I thought, at least on the Democratic side, I thought that the God bless you, the replacement for the balloons in the event of the sort of fireworks and the blinking tail lights was pretty cool.
The hazards was such a great, so smart, so clever, so like metaphorically, but also just visually is really cool.
But that said, then, if we're going to laud that, then what do you think of the pageantry of having using the front lawn and having a super spreader sort of firework extravaganza? The full weight of the imagery of the White House as backdrop.
Yeah, we sort of had a dystopian fascist COVID orgy that was pretty grim. I will admit that was. It's dark, kids. It's dark.
Yeah, in fact, Jen and I I feel so bad for my wife in so many ways. I do too. I feel bad for her too. Yeah, I love to be a contrarian. So every time she's like, things will never recover from this, I'm like, well, and I list off terrible things that have happened in the past that we've gotten through.
Sure.
And so, you and her were both like, we have to watch this. And I was like, I don't even want to watch it. But then she convinced me to watch it. And then by the time we got to the end of it on Thursday night, at least the Democrats hired somebody to let's try to make this visually appealing in this new format and embrace the new format. The Republicans were like, no, let's stick everybody in a room and just have them come out in a line and give speeches in the same place. By the time we got to the final speech, even after the 30-minute introduction of just him and Melania walking down the steps and all that crap,
using the White House as a political prop.
I had to
breaking the law brazenly.
I forced Jen. We were watching it. I had to bail on his speech. He's just so boring. It was 70 minutes. About 30 minutes in, I was like, "Yep, no."
Well, for a guy who's constantly sleepy Joe Biden, he's out there. He doesn't know. He's too sleepy to do anything. If you actually watch the speech all the way to the end, which of course I did. He just talked and talked until he ran out of energy and just sort of stopped talking.
Yeah, exactly.
It was literally, you could see, he's like, America. Lights.
But in at least semi-entertainment, entertainment. Oh boy, here we go. You can switch to PC, but you can't upgrade your own internal processor, can you?
No, you sure can't.
So
you need to overclock you, not your CPU.
So, Keith mentioned that other production company I'm working for on occasion. We had our last show of the summer. The game show was this last Friday, so we have a week off from that until we get into our fall. But Melania, I was tasked with coming up with a bit of a promo for it this past Friday, and Melania gave us the
green screen,
wonderful green screen. So I was able to pop her. Help. That was helpful.
Hilarious.
That was
Thank
helpful.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melania. You won't let me touch you, but you do make for some good green screen.
Oh, that's for damn sure. Do you know what else I've been watching a little bit? Actually, I've been watching a lot of stuff, but the only thing I'm going to mention this week is we were really bored, and we decided we were going to have a little bit of not game night. I meant a date night. And so, since you can't go to the movies anymore, we decided to actually pony up and rent the new Bill and Ted movie.
Oh, yes.
So we watched that, and we're watching, and so my brief review is this. It's the same corny, yet uplifting, positive, funny movie you remember. How they were able to capture the same exact vibe and just fast forward it all these years is great. It's got the same camp value. There are cheesy moments, but what's really impressive to me is that our two friends, Bill and Ted, Keanu Reeves and Bill, Alex Winters.
Ted.
Yes, I think his name is Alex Winters or something like that. We can tell
Jonathan
who had
Winters.
the bigger career. Yeah. However, they commit so fully to these characters and embrace it that it worked. It won me over. Jen was less entertained, but I think I just have more nostalgic value for Bill and Ted.
Well, it's a dude movie.
It's a dude movie. It reminds me of This Day in the Basement for way back.
Whoa,
but
dude.
I'll never forget my grandma took us to see the second one, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Sure.
And you know how 20 minutes into a movie, the guy comes into the theater and turns down it does whatever he does. I don't even know what they're doing. They're messing with the air conditioning. Is that what they're doing?
Or something. Yeah.
Whatever they're doing. He came in and he's walking out. He's 14 years old or whatever. There's no employment laws at the movie theater. And you need to be grumpy to work the popcorn, and you need to be underage to work the theater.
Right.
Anyway, my grandmother grabs him on the way out, and you know what she said? She's like, hey, you tell them to turn it down. It's too loud.
Of course she did.
And so about 15 minutes after that, she turns to me and she goes, I don't think they did it. And I was like, no, Grandma, they probably didn't.
No, they definitely did.
But that all said, my point is that midway through the movie, who appears but
Holland Taylor!
Everybody's favorite Judge Kittleson in Bill and Ted 3, Bill and Ted Face the Music. And talk about committing. She plays, you'll remember Rufus from the original sequels.
I don't think I've seen it since it came out.
Well, she is like the like grand leader of the future, and she has all the stakes, and she chews up that scenery in her few little scenes. So, good job to you. Oop.
Well, I gotta say this for you, Holland. If you're gonna be in Bill and Ted's, you've got to
Massachusetts. In Massachusetts.
chew that scenery.
Massachusetts. From Massachusetts. Massachusetts.
Hell yeah.
Yes, indeed. All right, folks, that was more TV, which of course brings us to
Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas.
we have heard from many of our usual old friends, and Leanne wrote about a couple episodes ago. You were bringing up live episodes and such. So she quotes, Mike, we're going to have live episodes. We're going to have guests. Keith, anxiety intensifies. Yes, Leanne, you know me so well.
You'll also notice that I lost that battle right away. But we did come on the YouTube, so that's like
YouTube was the compromise, which ended up being so much more work than what you were proposing.
Mm-hmm. Much like what was the name of in U.S. history, Keith, the big compromise that got us all that land? What was that called?
The Louisiana Purchase?
Yeah, maybe. Let's just use that. This was my Louisiana Purchase moment. I thought it was a compromise. Turns out I got screwed.
That is definitely true. Of the people screwed, you are the most screwed by doing this. Although, to be fair, it does add another like half an hour of graphics for me every week.
Yeah.
To
we
do
love
this.
it. We have
but
fun.
We definitely love it. Also on YouTube, of course, our good friend Phoenix Cage, very helpfully last week we asked him to moderate the YouTube boards, which are just him. But happily, he said, I officially accept your invitation to moderate myself. I will make my best effort to keep the multiple personalities of Cloud Lover, Tom Brady, and Mike's mom in check.
Good luck, buddy.
You. No. Phoenix is even busier than we are. He also says, so apparently, all three of us have had similar experiences of people wondering why we don't have more of an accent. That's the first comment I get when people find out where I'm from. But you guys have heard my voice so many times that I wonder if you'd be able to guess. That's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, we talked last week about how I never had the Vermont accent. You never had the Philly accent. But, you know, if I did have the Vermont accent, I'd be sounding like this, all right? Don't you know? So,
I don't know that I
Phoenix,
never
where
had
you
the
from?
Philly accent. I don't know that it's a never, but definitely.
Oh, you deleted
no
it
longer,
later.
Yeah.
I was a pretentious child, so I'm assuming that's why I just never had it.
Okay.
So, yeah. So where do we think Phoenix is from?
I'm gonna guess he's Canadian.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why. That's what I'm feeling, so I'm gonna say Canadian.
I don't get a Canadian vibe from Phoenix.
Okay.
I'm gonna say, all right, this is gonna be the weird one. I think Phoenix is from Georgia.
Oh,
I think
Southern.
He's from somewhere down south, but has weaned himself of the Southern accent.
Okay, I like that.
So Phoenix, never tell us. We're just gonna say you're from a different place every time we come in.
Yes, I think that's the better choice on our part.
Well, he continues, I find it hard to believe that a judge, let alone multiple judges, would strike down the appeal on a technicality that a rape kit cannot be tested because of its old evidence. The new test result itself would be evidence. It's like if a judge didn't tell the lawyer call a witness twice because anything else would they would have to say would be old testimony. Read more. I can wonder if it's a technicality that judges actually use, or is it this just more lazy writing? A better podcast listener would know, but maybe he or she is out there in the comment.
So that's Phoenix Cage as Jeff Daniels doing Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
that was a very complex impersonation.
Wow.
But his actual point there is interesting because we were talking about old evidence versus new evidence. Can there be new evidence discovered on a piece of old evidence? Which is what we're talking about here. Can you analyze a piece of thing that has already gone into evidence, has been accepted as evidence, but analyze it in a different way as new evidence, which of course I think it should be. Totally. And I wonder if that's a technicality that judges use too. But I feel like it probably happens more often than we think, because I think about the Adnan Syed case and how difficult it's been for them to introduce new evidence with like especially like the cell phone records, which we understand very differently now than we did then. And so they're saying like, no, this same cell phone record that we have put into evidence, that we have analyzed before, now means a different thing based on this new information, but fighting to get them to accept that as a new piece of evidence. So unfortunately, I think I might have to take the dystopian view and think that it is actually that difficult to introduce new things.
It does. It's so often, regardless of which piece of crime, fiction or true crime, nonfiction you're watching or reading, it does seem in so many cases that the system is set up to make things more difficult. Although, Cameron's Close last week was a perfect summation of that. It seems almost like the right intentions are there, but they hardly ever work out to the benefit of the accused.
Yes. Yeah. In a judicial system designed, at least conceptually, to be on the side of the accused, to be giving all the benefits of the doubt to the accused, not the prosecution. It ends up going backwards. Because I appoint the best judges everywhere I go.
Oh, man. Did you read about this payroll tax cut thing that was supposed to be helpful, but it's just a goddamn giant mess of red tape and nobody knows what the hell is happening?
All it is an attempt to kill Social Security. It's a backdoor assassination of Social Security and Medicare. So enjoy that, folks. And not the least of which, it's a pause in the or in the payroll tax cuts that you still have to pay. So, what the fuck good does it do? They're like, oh, I have an extra $200. I just have to leave it there and then write a check later. How does that help me? All right, anyway. Lastly, on Instagram, of course, Marla always gets a lot of love on Instagram. Marla Sokolove says, how is Lucy always so beautiful? And Cody Y16 says, not to sound over-exaggerated, but when I see a pic of Lucy Hatcher, I just feel like this. And let me see if I can approximate this emoticon. So,
oof, I don't know if you did it justice, but you gave it the old college try.
Look, it was upsetting. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I caught a glimpse of it in the camera. I was like, no, that's bad.
We had another email.
You know that screenshot's going to show up somewhere.
There's an old chestnut, ask and ye shall receive. Well, that's not generally the case here at the Out of Practice podcast. You'll note that we 2 to 3 times each episode ask for people to leave reviews.
Ratings and reviews, yes.
I know from the analytics, people are watching, and they're watching old episodes as well, so
they
people
sure
are
are
just not heeding our plea for reviews, but is what it is. But, Keith, better than a review. I received an email from our good friend, founding sponsor, Jennifer Masanova, who, guess what she's got? A VCR. And is going to send it our way so that our This Day in the Basements can become more disturbing, troubling.
I can't believe that worked. I can't believe you threw that into the ether and back comes a VCR. That is unbelievable.
Well, I mean, since it works, if a moving van wants to just show up on October 15th with a crew of guys, then awesome. I'll provide the donuts.
Or let's just cut to the chase. After COVID, does anybody have a liver? That would be most useful.
Oh man!
Wow.
A liver.
Wow. Well, that was
specific.
amazing.
That was specific. Because you've been drinking. Okay, I'm putting it all together. Okay.
See, because it's very complex.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my goodness. Well, we do have amazing listeners.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
That's insane. Awesome. All right. Well, it is time to move on and hop into the time machine back to May 14th, the year 2000. And it brings up our eternal question, what were you doing
This day in the basement.
Oh, I'm seeing it live. Look at that. So
We'll
fancy.
do it live.
Do it live. It's going to freeze. It's definitely going to break.
Something's gonna break. Well, you know what? Sometimes you just jump in with both feet. But just remember, if it's high enough, the water turns to concrete. So be careful. So yeah, folks, we're gonna start down a sort of journey here. May 14th, we're 5 days shy of what will be May 19th, the year 2000, will be my dad's last birthday. And it got me thinking, actually. I went for a walk yesterday, and I was thinking about it to think about what I wanted to say in this area. Actually, I'll pop this photo up real quick because we have a pic of, it's in that time period. Now, my dad, he aged very quickly his last few years because he had gone through a quadruple bypass. He had mouth cancer. He had what was the other thing? All kinds of stuff that he just kept getting better about. My cat's freaking out behind me.
Yeah,
And
there's Cece and Didi are having a show back
they're
there.
having a row, yeah. And initially, what ends up getting him, I'll give spoiler alert, is he climbs out on the roof because there was a frisbee up there, and we were like, no, don't worry about it. But he climbs through my mom's bedroom onto the roof and gets a cut on his finger, which gets infected, which turns septic, which then he was also a type 1 diabetic his whole life. Whichever type is, you're on 3 things of insulin every day. 1 or 2, I can't remember.
2. Yeah.
And all of his systems just start shutting down. They start they say this happens to many diabetics. They just start kind of amputating parts of his. It just got ugly, and then eventually renal failure. Speaking of organs giving out, his kidneys shut down, and that's what we're going to get next year. But this last sort of time since his birthday through the summer, early next year, things were okay still. And yeah, I was going through a lot of trials and tribulations in my life, but my dad would still because I didn't know I didn't really have a lot of direction, but he would often take me to work with him. He owned a company and he was also really supportive. I do a couple of shows this summer and into the next year. Hopefully I'll have some video. Thanks, Jennifer Massanova. And he was always there, always championing me, always being supportive. And I thought, if I think back to the plight of dads everywhere, and this was his last birthday. He didn't know that, of course, that this would be his last year to live. He died but 3 days before his next birthday.
Oh.
And I can't remember a goddamn present I ever bought my dad.
Really?
You know what I mean? Dads, Father's Day, whatever, you get a tie, you get this.
Yeah, you get a tie, you get a shitty
at least in my
screwdriver.
experience, my growing up, and dads sort of, we lived in a really quote unquote traditional sort of upbringing. Dad went to work, mom stayed at home, but mom, because she stayed at home, was like the parent, right?
Right.
I don't remember. The things I remember about my dad are like the times we got to spend time together. My dad he was too busy. He was one of those dads. He didn't teach me to play football or baseball or any of those things. He didn't teach me to ride a bike. Those memories I had with other people. But what I'm happy about is at least 20 some years later, or however long it's been, 2001, 19 years later, the prevailing memories that stick with me is good stuff. Now he could be a bastard, and he was never abusive, but he could be verbally scary.
Yeah.
That's how he sort of disciplined, was yelling and making you feel like a piece of crap. But that stuff though it affected me and has turned me into, has given me some issues. It doesn't stick with me in the top of my brain. It's the good stuff. And I'm going to do my best as we talk about these things moving forward to highlight a lot of the good stuff. But also it's going to probably be a little bit of therapy, I figured, since I'm not having the one-on-one therapy sessions because of COVID. But so buckle up is what I guess I'm saying. I'm going to talk about it, I think, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I hope you do, because I think it is important. I mean, because your personal experience, I think is important for you personally to share, and I think it's valuable to other people. But I also think like these issues are universal in one way or another. There's always a piece of this that applies, and I think about my father, who luckily is still with us, and I go back and I think about our history together, when of course it's complex and perpetually evolving, and I feel like, I imagine that your relationship with your father has developed and changed over the last 19 years as much as mine has, because the relationship, my relationship with my father changes based on what's happening interpersonally. But as I get older, as I grow into adulthood and start being ages that I remember he was, and I start to, context change, and I change, and so I'm almost like, my relationship with him in the past has changed almost as much as my relationship with him in the present.
Yeah, I think you garner a great deal of empathy, or at least understanding, as you become an adult yourself and realize, so grown-ups are just making this shit up as they go along. Whereas as a kid, parents are infallible for the most part. They know all. And for me, my relationship with my dad was truncated right at the precipice of where the adult relationship, as I don't want to say peers, but more so peers, fellow adults, would have developed. And so the big difference for me is that I develop my relationship with him now is based on understanding and assuming some of the circumstances he was going through. While he was going through all these health issues, he was also trying to figure out how to fucking support a full family in real time. You know what I mean? It was
a single income too, right?
Right. He wasn't, and there was no pennies to be left to us. It wasn't like I'm setting up the house so that when I finally go, because in his brain, he was never going. In fact, I don't remember when it was. I know it's in this last year, so I'll share it during this segment. So the construction company he owned with a partner was a facade refacing. So they would use concrete, and they had these artisans who would make the outside of your house look like wood or or stone, or brick facing, stone facing, all kinds of things.
Whatever you wanted,
concrete, right? So it was a lifetime warranty, but it was much more aesthetic, and it was never the most expensive. I mean, it was never the cheapest. It was always very expensive. Right. But he was such a good salesman that he was incredible. Had he stayed just a salesman, he would have been so wealthy. But he's like me. He didn't like to work for people, and so he bought the company and wasn't great as a owner of a company, and so it
different skill.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll never forget the year before, he had one of his moments of vulnerability. We were sitting on my brother's bed. I don't know why we were in there, but I remember we were sitting on my brother's bed, and he was talking to me, and he goes, so there's a prison in Philadelphia, Graterford Prison, giant prison facility in Pennsylvania, outside of Philly, and he was cautiously excited, and he goes, I think I'm going to land this deal, and we're going to be doing the entire facade of the prison, and it's going to be a huge, it could be like $1 million deal. And he was really looking forward to it and really psyched. And in my brain, I wasn't thinking, even as a teenager, I wasn't thinking, we're going to have money, right? I remember thinking this would be such a win for him to get this win. And just the timing, the sand fell through the hourglass, you know.
Ugh. That's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah. It's funny, dude. I don't know that I've been emotional about this stuff, but a handful of times over the years, like a commercial or movie hits me the right way. But when you really start talking about it, it's all still there. It's all still there.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And that's, that relationship, I think particular fathers and sons, it's so foundational that every little piece you carry with you in everything you do. Interesting. All right. Well, stay tuned. We will we'll definitely continue that conversation as we go. Far less seriously, over in Rochester, I was finishing up my sophomore year at college, and the end of sophomore year means juries again.
Oh yes, second
so
jury.
I was going through my sophomore jury, which started to be a little bit more serious than the freshman jury. Freshman jury is like, are you like technically doing it? Okay, fine, you can get through.
Same tuxedo though, same suit, right?
Yeah. Did I wear? I don't know. I don't think I had a suit. I had full tails, like white cummerbund and bow tie tuxedo. I did not wear that for the jury. It's a good question. I think I'd like dressed up a little bit, might have had a tie, but I didn't really have a lot of dress clothes in between, like, cargo shorts and a t-shirt and full tails. There's nothing in between.
I wish somebody could do a courtroom rendering of that look.
Oh, it's really quite something. I'll find pictures of it somewhere. But I was up in, we were up in the annex doing these so the whole voice faculty was there, and I think sophomore year was German, so I think I did some German lieder, that kind of stuff, and then I did an aria. I might have done French, but French is more junior. I really don't remember exactly what I did, but it scared the shit out of me, but somehow they let me through, the lazy singer that I was. And boy, do I have a story come senior year.
Oh, I can't wait.
Before my senior recital, which is like the whole thing.
The whole ball game, right? Yeah.
The whole ball game there. I almost killed my voice teacher with my lack of preparation. And he was like, I want to kill myself after my rehearsal. So we'll tell that story. But this was actually the end of my current voice teacher's tenure too. So Dale Moore left the school after this year, and I had a different voice teacher for my junior and senior years.
Did you of gel with all of your voice teachers? Did you find that each one of them offered you something different, or were there some that you really kind of hold to a higher esteem?
That's a good question. I think all the voice teachers that I've had have been very good teachers. I'm not sure I gelled fully with either of my teachers in college. But I think it wasn't really their fault. I think it was I wasn't necessarily gelling with what we were doing. Because I think just my heart and my priorities just weren't in the classical world. And I was just sort of there because I could, not because I wanted to. And they didn't always understand that. And they didn't understand what I wanted to do. Both of my voice teachers referred to any musical theater as musical comedy. Didn't matter if I was singing like Gethsemane from Superstar, like Jesus is dying on the cross. Like, oh, you want to do the musical comedy number? And it was just like, I don't know how to help you with this. This is some weird space music. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. So that was always an issue. But
it was never the other way. Did you notice that too? I've noticed with all the teachers I studied with too before moving into the musical theater. The opera world or the classical voice world always look down their nose at the musical theater world, but never the reverse.
No,
never the reverse.
No, for sure. No, and that was I always bristled against that. I really didn't like that. And my high school teacher, who is a tremendous voice teacher, who actually split his time in Vermont teaching us like random hicks, and he was on the faculty at Circle and the Square in New York City and taught a lot of, legitimate clients there. He was the one that convinced me to go into classical, but he was a musical theater guy. Right. And so, and I thought, to be perfectly honest, I use his technique more than I did the classical technique that I learned. And I figured out what I was trying to do in college, after college. Like the actual tenor tessitura, I couldn't figure out how to really sing a G if you're a singer. I couldn't really get it right until after college. I was just fucking around using my old teachers, Bill Reed's technique, and I'm like, oh wait, is that it? Oh god. So it, like 5 years later, I finally understood what the hell I was trying to do. So
often
anyway,
too, last thing I want to say, we're going all over the place today, but
we are truly all over the place. Yeah.
I think back to my first and really only guitar, well, not only, but my first guitar teacher. And I was such a pain in the ass. I mean, I'm a kid. I'm between, I'm in like early middle school through the beginning of high school, and I had this teacher, Dan Spolin, his name was, and I didn't want to practice. I didn't want to like learn notes and stuff. I was like, just teach me the songs I like. And I remember being such a pain in the ass, but it's affected the rest of my life. I mean, for the better. And you also forget too, when you're studying with someone, that they're not normally just teachers. They're usually somebody paying the bills by teaching.
Right, sure.
Who are also performers. And it's been one of the joys of my life now in this current age, especially during quarantine, to revisit on YouTube, via YouTube, that guy, Dan Spolin, who changed my life as a teacher, is a prolific online YouTube guitar guy, because he's incredible. Really? You know what? I'll put it in the show notes because
cool. Yeah.
You forget, this guy wasn't just somebody who did something for you. They live their own life. They're doing their own thing. They could probably use the bump, the oopsie bump of the one viewer that I can push his way, and it's you.
No, well, yeah, right. Well, and it's fascinating to make the transition to being someone who is now teaching, and just it's sort of the same thing with like being a parent and a child and being the teacher and the student. You realize, oh wait, no, this is not what I thought this person's like point of view was on this. And anyway, very interesting. We will discuss more such important things, but we're all here for a reason, and it ain't to hear us talk about voice lessons. We are here to talk about May 14th, the year 2000, and
this day in the bay.
That's the wrong cue. That's the wrong cue. We really meant this one.
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
What? Are you saying we're not going to get the weather this week?
Nope, no weather this week.
Boo! But I will tell you what's up.
Oh, it's still going, baby.
It's still going. We are, of course, listening to yet another cover of Santana's Maria Maria.
This song was a banger. You don't need me to tell you, but it's true.
I didn't even know it existed before this podcast, but I'm totally on board now. The cover of the Burlington Free Press talked about lawmakers approving budget. So don't worry, back in 2000, the local budget for Vermont got passed. Congratulations, good for them. I'm sure Governor Howard Dean played a role in that. The top movie was the sweet
Carlos Santana. Sorry. What was the top? Talk to me about the tops.
The top movie was Gladiator in its second week of domination.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? This was, of course, Fabio Rodriguez playing and singing. What a talented dude. Found him on the YouTubes, as one does, which brings us to the most essential bumper or segment we do entitled
It's time for Sportsball.
The Philadelphia Flyers played the Devils in the first game of the Eastern Conference Finals in Philadelphia. Scott Niedermayer kicked off the scoring 55 seconds into the first period, giving the Devils the early lead. Mark Recchi and the Flyers tied it up before Peter Sikora and Bobby Holik scored also all in the first period. Inglorious douchebag Claude Lemieux put the dagger in the Flyers with a final goal with 5 minutes remaining. The Devils took game one of the series 4-1. Keith was sad.
Well, Keith being sad should go forward because if my Googling and updates that get beamed to me way too frequently on my iPhone have anything to say about it, Keith, both of the hockey teams we are following are getting their asses handed directly to them.
I don't want to talk about it.
You're
so
down
depressed.
3-1 with the Boston Bruins, and I'm down 2-1 with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah. No, I'm so sad. I'm gonna watch us finish out our sad end to our season tonight.
Yeah, it's not the greatest.
Yeah, not the greatest at all, but you never know. Hope springs internal.
Internal?
It's a line from a show that I did called Take One. It's really very funny. Jeff Ward, SNL comedy writer, wrote the book.
Thanks, Jeff.
Or he wrote all of it. Very talented guy. Anyway. Okay, so are we not doing the weather?
There was weather. I was a little preoccupied at the time, celebrating my father's birthday, Keith. So, get off my back about it.
All right, how many times are you going to throw your father in my face every time?
I can't throw him anywhere, Keith. He's passed away.
I can't throw my dead father, you jerk.
You keep bringing it up. I'm going to make a bumper about it. Things, I love this podcast, but things have turned dark in recent weeks, says founding sponsor so-and-so.
Yeah, boy, yeah. The only inheritance you got was guilt that you could throw on other people. You had a guilt shield.
Would he be proud of me? I don't know. You run a podcast for free, so my guess is no.
I feel, based on what I know about him, he would definitely be proud of you for finding a way to make it useful to you.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Use your resources, he would say.
That's right. Okay. All right. Well, we've wasted a great deal of your time, and
I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
Man, that top note is awesome.
oh, well, thank you. This episode, of course, is season 4, episode 21, entitled Honorable Man. It was written by David E. Kelly solo for the first time in a few weeks and directed by veteran director Dennis Smith, who last directed Day in Court. Which leaves us with only one question.
What is that supposed to mean? What's your problem?
Terrible.
Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
Wait.
What if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
Well, Keith, we're almost to the season finale. I believe that's next week, correct?
It is.
Which means we've got to up the stakes. We've got to reel some people back in. I'm thinking about Honorable Man. Who's somebody that could come back into the fold and we could use the gravitas of their honor? And I'm thinking Raymond Oz.
Okay.
So I'm thinking we have a case of high stakes where Bobby is reaching the end of his rope as to how to proceed. And so he has to visit Raymond Oz in prison, Silence of the Lambs style.
To be fair, Raymond Oz got himself off and is not in prison.
Yes.
But maybe he's visiting.
Well, he's visiting him wherever he is, like still Silence of the Lambs style, like Jodie Foster visiting, right?
Right. So he's going to be in a cage somehow. So he's going to come across a caged Raymond Oz.
A cage of his own guilt, Keith. Cage of his own guilt. All right.
Ooh.
And he's going to have to sit in a chair to speak to Raymond Oz. And Raymond will help Bobby, even though he goes through a couple of like episodes where he's like, "Who are you? Why are you here?" He comes to it enough in order to convince Bobby or help Bobby come up with the correct strategy to solve the case.
Okay. Well, you know, what I love most about that was thinking that the connection between the chair is that someone sat in a chair. That the most interesting thing that happened in this episode was somebody sat in a chair.
Well, I mean, but it's upside down. So that's got to be something, right?
Yeah, well, stay tuned.
Oh, okay.
And now it's time for you to hop over to your podcasting service of choice. Click on the QR code right there over Eugene and listen to us jabber over the episode, but come back for the oopsies.
I'm concerned now because it's not Bobby in this picture, which tells me that if my prediction was correct, it wouldn't be Eugene. But I'm sticking by it. I'm standing by it as an honorable man would do.
I think you're sitting by it.
Upside down.
This is a chair. Yeah.
We'll be back after this episode of the Out of Practice Podcast.
After our non-existent ad.
Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show.
Y'all, Eugene is pissed. His wife took off again, so he is defending a guy who banged a corpse, accused of murdering that corpse in the dumpster. But guess what? He was in the dumps because he didn't murder her. He was just banging her, and he shouldn't be going to jail. On the other case, Jimmy has to defend a guy who kind of screwed over this guy with AIDS and ends up winning, but really he loses a little bit of his soul. Eugene wins, but also lost a lot of his soul. Oh my God. Please don't ever play that back to any human being.
This was a really heavy episode, apparently. Well,
30
we've all
seconds
lost
is very short.
No, for sure. Well, we've all lost a little bit of our soul, but you know what restores souls? It is time for...
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice Podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present...
Oopsie.
The Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the oopsies?
Well, I'll tell you, Jackie. It's a fake award show we do at the end of every episode of the Out of Practice Podcast, in which we give practice characters awards, but
That's
they're
true.
fake.
That's true.
And we start with...
Most valuable.
Now, Keith, you're going to find that I have made some mistakes here.
Oh, I'm shocked.
But I think I can resolve these mistakes. I'm pretty confident I can do so. The question is going to be whether or not here we go. That's that, at least. The question is going to
Okay.
be whether I've done this for the others, and I don't feel that I have.
You
No, I
haven't
haven't.
cropped me into the other slides, huh?
No, you're cropped fine. It's just the actual slides themselves. I'm going to have to kind of do this on the thing. You know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to just put up the main oopsie thing and have to do better next time.
Okay. All right. Well, that was interesting. But what is interesting is this episode's most valuable lawyer, which I'll go first as I
Okay.
see you're struggling with graphics.
No, they're good. What you see is not indicative of what the final result is, so that's good.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think it's quite clearly Eugene here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jimmy did get a victory of sorts, but it was a bit of a Pyrrhic victory. Whereas Eugene put up a hell of a defense, even though the client didn't necessarily deserve it. And he crushed it. I thought he really handled that well. So for me, it's Eugene.
Yeah, I think that Jimmy, like you said, really only got to give somebody a stern talking to. and maybe learn a couple lessons about keeping in touch with mom. But ultimately, yeah, Eugene knocked it out of the park.
All right, congratulations, Eugene, on your MVL. Put it up on a shelf next to... Oh, wrong one. Wrong one.
You're
Okay.
already famous because you've been on TV, getting a paycheck. First entry on your IMDb. Way to go, and you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
Ba-da-bum.
I think this, if you ever thought when you, Alan Davidson, when you started your career as an actor, that you would be receiving a prestigious award for your portrayal of a corpse banger, as I so eloquently stated it.
Banger. Oh, very eloquent, yes.
You would have been right, because you're about to be awarded my vote for the OOPSY for Best Guest Actor, even though you were in an episode. You had beat out Holland Taylor for
That's
an
true.
OOPSY.
Holland Taylor, the most expensive extra in the episode. Yeah, no, I thought he did well. But I'm going to give mine to Jim Peary as the Tom Hanks stand-in, who I thought did a really nice, nuanced job as the plaintiff in Jimmy's case. So I mean, it's not like a big showy episode for guest stars. But as usual, very solid performances, even as we're handing it off to our main cast. So, congratulations, Jim Peary and Alan Davidson, for your fake awards. Now it's time for...
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
Michael Badalucco, Steve Harris, head to head.
Battle of the Titans.
Man, it's so hard. It's so hard. The beat changes, everything. But I think for his ability to bring it all the way up to 10 and then bring it back, I have to go with Steve Harris as my vote for Best Actor.
Yeah, it's a terrific episode for him. The only complaints I have are on the writing side, because it sort of beats he's been asked to play before.
Yeah.
But he plays them really, really well.
Which is also a challenge, it can be seen as a challenge.
Yeah, no. But that said, we're going to go splitsies, because I'm giving my half to Michael Badalucco.
Okay.
Because fair. I think that is the just way to handle this, because they both deserve an oopsie, so they can cut it in half and put it on their shelf. I'm sure they each have a half an oopsie kicking around somewhere. They can just glue them together. So, congratulations, Steve Harris and Michael Badalucco, on your Best Actor oopsie. Next up,
the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
First things first, let's put last week's Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady up right here, which was chain-smoking Tom Brady.
Yes.
Don't
try that at home.
This week's Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady. Now, listen, I don't want to ever be sued for libel, so I'm going to simply imply something with my Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady here.
Okay.
This week's winner of the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady is...
I'm so afraid, because
Why is he hanging around that stinky dumpster, Tom Brady? That's it. Why is he hanging around that stinky dumpster, Tom Brady? Wins this week's award for the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
That's not even where I thought you were going, but I still love it. Why is he hanging around that stinky dumpster, Tom Brady? Applause.
Oh, man, that's funny.
Oh, that's a good one. And really, you're going to have to really hear the episode to understand why that's important.
Yeah, it's
so
dark.
If you're just following us on Instagram, start listening.
It's pretty dark.
Pretty dark. Well, it's been a dark episode.
It's true.
Speaking of dark things,
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
So is it possible that this is one of those episodes they had in the can in order to fill a spot? We talked about it last season. Yes, they make an off reference to the wedding, but like you said before, we've known about that for a while.
Right.
The reason
and they sprinkled it in a little bit.
The reason I say it is because it doesn't play into the meta arc at all.
Right.
It runs around both cases surround around beats we've done before. The Eugene case, or the Eugene exploration,
representing a monster, right?
And Jimmy
dealing with homophobia.
Thank you for knowing what I'm about to say. But yeah, okay, cool. We don't see most of the main cast. Bobby's not in the episode at all. Rebecca's on sabbatical. Helen doesn't put up much of a fight. Holland Taylor's there for no reason. And we just came off what Keith and I heralded as one of the best 3-episode arcs, period. And then it's like, we got this little gap before the season finale. I said last week, I wish that last week had run directly into the season finale, because those 3 episodes, it would have been such a and this just feels like it lands sort of, no disrespect to the issues we're dealing with, but the episode itself landed sort of like a dull turd after that trilogy before the season finale. So I'm underwhelmed, I'd say. So I'm going to give it 7 spare tires. It still was good. Well, exceptional performances by Michael Badalucca and Steve Harris, I think, bolster what would probably be a lower number, but I think 7 spare tires for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I sort of agree with all the things that you said. If we weren't retreading this information, if this were a season 2 episode, I think it would be, we would be receiving it better. But because we're retreading a lot, it feels a little bit like filler. And it's a great showcase, for Steve and Michael, but it's not. Yeah, it's fine. The Holland Taylor thing, I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
She just won an Emmy for this show, but this season she's like judge number 2.
Right.
There's nothing to her character. We haven't learned anything about her story-wise, emotionally. She doesn't have any connection to the heroes on the show. She's just sort of there. And I don't understand that. I don't know why would you have her there if you're not going to use her? Because she's just a glorified action. I mean, she might literally have been an under 5 on this episode. And I don't know why Holland Taylor would even agree to be there for that.
Yeah.
Other than to just remind us that she's still sort of there. But when we talk about the whole season, I will definitely have some thoughts about the use of Holland Taylor coming off of her Emmy. That said, it's a perfectly fine episode. It's sort of well constructed, well acted, well performed. I just sort of it's sort of an average episode, fine. So I'm going to give it 6.75 tires, which gets us about 6.825 between the two. And that is the tires we have for this episode. Which means you have gotten your way through another episode of the Out of Practice podcast. If you would like to talk to us about it, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Out of Practice Podcast. You can email us directly with offers for old technology from the 90s or not at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can check out our blog and our definitive ranking of every episode ever on the practice at outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. You can do us a giant favor and join these amazing donors that have donated to... I was going to go somewhere else. Crap. All right, Out of Practice Podcast is brought to you by generous donations from...
Leanne Wrights, Cloud Lover 69, whoever you are, Jorge Navoa, and the VCR mistress herself, Jennifer Matanova.
You can join the jury. Do us a favor, leave us a rating and review on Apple iTunes or podcasts or any other service of your choice. Just let us know.
You can also donate to the show. I'll let you know how to do so in our show notes. But if you don't have time to do that, just pick up the closest chair to you, throw it at the screen in disgust, and yell off some laser sounds.
Laser sound.